Nigeria in such an important day than to invite our partners in Nigeria. And we're honored to have the Archbishop Musa Panti with us, and also Felix, Ms. Samari, who is the communication officer. And I think we will be having some other person that will be introduced by the Archbishop, His Grace. And this day, like I said, is very important because this is when Nigeria got its independence from the British. But, you know, Nigeria, if we look at a timeline in recent history, we'll say 1913, we sent a missionary. At that time, there was no such place called Nigeria. You know, the entity was formed as one in 1914. 1960 gave the full-fledged authority for Nigeria to act as a nation. And from that point till today, Nigeria has experienced a lot in its history. Political growth, economic growth, but also shrouded with so many instability. Today, when we talk about Nigeria, people always talk about insecurity, ethnic clashes, tribal and communal clashes, Boko Haram, you know, terrorism and religious intolerance. But what do all of these things mean for a nation that is 61 and is still trying to find its identity as a nation, as one people, despite its diversity? So these are the things that we'll be covering. And I would hand this moment now over to Numan, and they would introduce the day and introduce the topic. We will have, I think the way I understand it, we're having an eyewitness testimony, and then we will have the Archbishop do a presentation. And then towards the end, we'll open up for Q&A.
That's good. So sorry, I simply introduced the mission director, Reverend Habila Kakaba, and Felix Samari, our communication officer, who is speaking from the background and trying to control things here. I just said that quite a number of our staff colleagues would have loved to be here, but we also had to distribute some tasks. We have so many things going on within this weekend. But we are so happy that we can connect with you using the gift of technology. And although we are not able to meet in person, that we can connect in this way. So we are happy and we welcome you to Numan. Thank you very much. I now turn over to Felix. I think the understanding is that he will lead then the moderation of the second part where we hear from the pastor, and then I will then come in and we move on before we turn to Clement in Denmark. Felix.
Thank you, and everybody, you're welcome to this gathering. First of all, good afternoon from Numan. As you might have all known, today is the Independence Day. Nigeria is celebrating the 61st Independent Day. Nigeria, 1960, 1st October, was declared an independent state. And like any other nation in the world with its own independence, Nigeria can now no longer be part of the United Kingdom that was colonizing a lot of other places in Africa. As we all might have also known that the part of the uniqueness of the history of Nigeria is the role of the church in the development of Nigeria. Because by 1960, the church, even the Lutheran Church of Christ in Nigeria, was already 50 years in Nigeria. So, which means that the process of nationalism, struggle for independence was no doubt facilitated and supported so much by the works of the missionaries. Because one of the major strengths of nationalism that brought about independence in Nigeria and other parts of Africa was the role of education. And education, of course, in Africa and Nigeria in particular, was strengthened and facilitated by the work of the missionaries. And so it was on that background that in 1960, we had a lot of young Nigerians who, most of them were Christians, that were educated in missionary schools. They had the privilege of seeing the other side of reality and working towards independence. And so today, Nigeria is marking 61 years as an independent state. here we may consider what has so much changed in these 61 years, and what is it that is unique about independence of Nigeria. I want to start from the president's address today. One of the key things that the president of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, said today was that in the last 18 months, Nigeria has passed through one of its toughest times in history. And as far as he is concerned, and of course reality on ground, Nigeria probably has never witnessed such kind of disturbing situation, especially in the way people were kidnapped, people were killed, and a lot of unheard of things that have happened, including the extent that a military base, Nigeria Defense Academy, was raided and military men were kidnapped. And so it's to some extent showed how the security situation has deteriorated over the past 18 months in Nigeria. And this is a cause for concern as far as we are concerned. And for us in the church, we are also by this affected. And we have seen also our own share of these anomalies and bloodshed and attacks on individuals that are directly related to church, talking about places in Kwantagora, Mission Field, and parts of Zamfara and Kebbi State. The Lutheran Church of Christ in Nigeria was founded in 1913 in the midst of a Muslim Islamic thriving communities, because apart from the indigenous people, the entire northern Nigeria was already becoming Islamic dominated part of the country. Christianity was majorly in the south. Not until the coming of the missionaries in 1913 that Christianity started among the indigenous people. And this has continued to be a struggle with the reality that was existing, because coming from the Borno, where Kanim Borno Empire has existed for centuries, Islam was there for so long a time, even before the Usman Dan Fodio Jihad that brought about Islam in this part of the country. And so the issue of religion is a key thing in discussing so many things in Nigeria. That is why when you come to the point of talking about freedom of religion or belief in Nigeria, especially in northern Nigeria, you talk about how tolerance and understanding among different religious groups, including the traditional religion believers, practitioners, how they can live side by side without causing problem to one another. And so today, our discussion or the narrative of Nigerian history ongoing would be focusing on how Nigeria will be able to contend insecurity, how Nigeria will be able to handle the issue of conflicts among farmers and herders and communities, issues bordering on economic issues of farmland and the rest of it, and then how Nigeria will be able to also address the issue of freedom of religion or belief, how Christians and Muslims and traditional religion worshippers will be able to live side by side, each respecting the boundary of one another and also the belief of one another. These are key things that Nigeria will have to take into cognizance going forward. And for us as a church and you as partners of the church, of course, that will also form some kind of thoughts about Nigeria. When you're talking about Nigeria, you look at issues that has to do with how the church is thriving in the midst of insecurity, and how is church going to be the salt of the earth that is called to be, especially in this time of crisis. So with this background, I would like to invite the mission director who has been working with our missionaries in the field. It is important to mention also that our missionaries in the field are the most affected, because most of these things happen in the rural area where security is less, is not as efficient as it is in the urban area. And our missionaries are out there in the field. And so he is the one that works directly with them. He interfaces with them and then communicates with them on a daily basis. He would give us a little background on how this has affected the church in those areas that our missionaries are working, and what is the church planning to do about this. And going forward, what do we think of our own Nigeria? Because this is where we belong, and this is the only country we have that we can call our own. Thank you very much for finding time to come on this special day for us in Nigeria. And we thank you also for your prayers. I will now hand over the mic to the mission director. He would give us this background from the mission field. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Our parents and colleagues from Denmark, Mission Africa, and other partners who are supporting mission work and church activities in LCCN and Nigeria. I say good afternoon to you all. Here we are grateful to God for this time that Nigeria is 61 years old, celebrating our independence. As the communications officer has given the highlight of the background where we have come from up to this time. And we are grateful to God for where we are today, both as a church and as a nation. And LCCN has strived within these 61 years, even before the independence period up to this time, and we are moving forward. However, the general situation in the country since independence in history has been challenging over the years and over the decades. And among these challenges are religious challenges and also civil society challenges. Even the governors have also been having challenges up to this time. To the extent that today, at 61 years, our stand and position as leaders and governors to say this is where we are and this is how far we have gone, and the good and the ugly of it, I think we are still struggling. But God is helping us. Nigeria has been moving forward. I will talk about the issue of the activities of bandits in Nigeria in the recent years. We know that crises have been looming in Nigeria ethnically and religiously too. But most of our crises in Nigeria always begins either in the government circle or among the ethnic groups, mostly culminates to religious problems, to the extent that when it became violent in this country, it metamorphosed from a particular religion dominating the violent conflicts in Nigeria. And of course, we know that as far as we are concerned in Nigeria, the two major religions are Islam and Christianity. And they have been like twin brothers that have always been at loggerheads. There is competition, religious competition. And this religious competition has turned into confrontations, even in government circles, turning to appointments whatsoever religion counts. And now religion in Nigeria has been politicized. But the worst of it is the violent dimension of it that we have experienced right from the time of Boko Haram. Let me say, as from 2014 up to now, metamorphosing into many terrorist groups, from the ISWAP, from the Boko Haram. You turn to bandits, herdsmen, and the rest of the kidnappers. Nigeria has experienced this to the extent that some parts of Nigeria are being held to stand still in regards to freedom of movement, activities, even religious activities, and all of this. The recent one, as the president of Nigeria had said in his speech, for the last 18 months, we've seen the peak of violence in this country, where activities have been halted in many areas of Nigeria, and particularly in the areas where LCCN as a church is working in the mission areas. The area we have seen that there are enriched areas, and they also have Islamic threat and invasion. We in LCCN in this part of Adamawa, where the church was founded, it was like, stepped up. Who could come and save these ethnic tribes from the invasion of Islam that was coming from the north and eastern part of this country? And so that was the call that Dr. Bruno answered, and he came. And this saved us. The coming of missionaries saved us from the invasion of Islam. But then they didn't stop. It continues. And when they cannot get it through conversion, preaching and conversion, they turn to violence. And we know what is happening in Nigeria today is, forceful conversion of our of people to Christianity at gunpoints, at dagger points, and then even our youth, especially the young girls that have been but are taken away. We could see that clearly the religion counts in the banditry. Most of the kidnappings done in schools in Nigeria, if those schools are predominantly Muslims, we could see that the government will do whatever they can to release those students. But most of our Christian schools, where our children are abducted, they hardly return. Hardly you get 1/3 of them. They could release 1/3 of them, a very insignificant number, but the majority of them are held. You cannot know where they are. They've become sex slaves. They've been forcefully married. They've been forcefully converted. And the trend continues. That today it has turned glaringly, it is a religious matter in Nigeria, that Christianity is suffering persecution and openly this time around, and without any fear or favor. And what is happening today in Kontagora, we know you've been part of us. We've been reporting to you people. You know, you've been helping us, assisting us with Kontagora. Problems of banditry, where we have, almost 50 planted churches in various communities, villages in the areas that were affected. They were displaced, they were attacked, all their economic resources, animals and whatsoever were started away, and food items were started away by these bandits who were just rampaging, going from one village to the other, ransacking villages and killing, and then taking away. It was like economic, war to the people. And the people are rendered today helpless. Even in this farming season, it is only now, recently now, that they are returning to their own places, their homes, to settle down. And that at the time when planting season is almost going out. So it is very, very devastating. This thing is related to religion, because the government of today is one religion faction. Is dominated by a particular religion. Down from the president, Senate president, and whatsoever you have in this country, all the political appointments and heads of military and paramilitary, if you check, they are all headed by this by one religion, the Muslim religion. And so today, even the judiciary of itself. So you go to the police, and it's like Nigeria, Christian in Nigeria have no voice in this government, and nobody hears them even when they cry out, because there is nobody. And if you speak, our leaders, our religious leaders, are always at the receiving end, because they speak out for the people, but yet they are targets of also kidnap and assassination, because you have nobody to skewer you. If you are talking and they send somebody to take you, nobody will listen to you, because the person that should have been called to come and take over from you, to come and defend you, knows fully that they are playing the game, that they should eliminate the leader that speaks for the people. So Nigerian Christians have no voice. It is related to religion. And they say the glaring, the Fulani, the herdsmen that we are talking about, terrorists, they are people who are from one religion. And you are talking about the bandits, the Boko Haram. The people are saying that the Western education is a taboo. It should not be practiced. And we know that when you talk of Western education, you're talking about Christianity. Education came into Nigeria through Christianity, right from the south to the north. So it is related to religion, and it is glaring. The world knows about it. How is the church affected? All our mission activity, LCCN, we are an evangelical church. And so going out to evangelize, I mean, outreach is our mainstay as a church. So, but it has affected us because we cannot move. Our evangelists who are outside there are struggling, in fact, to hide themselves, and are struggling to see how they can also, I mean, get themselves out of trouble. They cannot go to places where they can evangelize and reach out and witness Christ. Everything, movement have ceased. Religious activities is it being done sometimes even in the hiding in some places in the country, where especially where it is dominated by majority Muslims. Religion is no longer practiced. You cannot even go out and witness Christ because it is at the risk of our life. So the church is generally affected by these banditry activities in Nigeria greatly. But then Jesus said we must do it because it is not our own. But actually, we are having it. The grace of God is also there for us. And we thank God that things are getting, probably because of the politics that is coming up. Election is by the corner. We see probably the government standing up and doing something now. And we hope that they will contain the situation for us to practice our religion freely and then do our evangelistic work freely. Thank you very much.
I think we've heard of the direct report on the things that happen at the mission field. And you have to know that Kontagora, it's a big area covering mostly the northwestern part. And so he has tried to highlight the challenges that the church has been facing as a result of bandit activity and herders, farmers clash, and how this is affecting people economically, because a lot of these people are farmers and they are unable to farm this year because they've been chased out of their own homes. But I think now we would lift the picture a little bit on a much bigger scale, the church. And this is where we would hand over the mic to the Archbishop, the grace.
So thank you very much, Director, for already opening up the conversation. Mine is to explore a few issues. First of all, looking at the journey from independence. It's very hard to summarize Nigeria's journey from independence until today, but one could say it's safe to say it has been complex. On one hand, there are so many things that we can celebrate as a nation. We have seen Nigeria struggling in terms of its own human capital. Education has continued. We have continued to struggle in terms of education and development of our human capital. We have also made, we can say, good steps in trying to catch up with technological advancement and other issues. The fact that we have gone as a nation through civil war shortly after independence and have survived and continue to live together as a nation is also something that's worth recognizing, that we have moved on despite all these challenges. At the same time, we are also very mindful that Nigeria, from independence until today, one could even conclude that we have lost sight of the vision of independence. The euphoria of an independent country that is growing, where there is peace, where there is justice. Our first national anthem talking about building on the labors of our heroes in the past. And our parents who were there during independence, looking at a nation where everybody will coexist, where there is peace, where there is justice, is not something that we have fully achieved. We can say, looking at the developments in our country today, peace and justice have eluded us. We are struggling with insecurity. More than anything today, this is our greatest challenge. whether people are living in the rural or in urban areas. The issue of security is our greatest challenge in Nigeria today. So certainly we have made some good steps, but definitely if one focuses on the negatives, it's very difficult to see the development. Yet, as people of hope, as a church, we are always looking into the future. We think that the journey will continue, and we continue to insist that nation building is never an easy thing, is never an event, is something that requires a struggle, and the struggle will continue. One thing though is that the majority of Nigerians have not lost sight of our unity, of being together. And I think in his speech today, the president of Nigeria also alluded to the fact that the sense of unity should be our rallying point, that the Independence Day that we're celebrating, even if we don't have so many things to put on the table, that we gained independence should be our point, our rallying point. And that day, 1st October, should inspire us to be determined to build a nation where there's peace and justice. So the journey from independence and today have been successful in many ways, but it has been a lot of ups and downs as well. Again, that we are still a nation, despite all these struggles, is worth celebrating, is worth commemorating, is worth remembering, and is something that should inspire us to move into the future. What has changed in terms of the church's influence in 61 years? Again, this is another complex issue. When we look back to pre and post independence, the church had a very big voice in society. We can say, as Felix introduced earlier, through education, health, and other diaconal services, the church has played a significant role in shaping the country that we call Nigeria today. In the struggle towards independence, the church was one of the strongest prophetic voices, equipping people, building capacities, mobilizing, and sensitizing people. And when you look around the leadership today, those who are in their 60s and above, many of them, regardless of their religious affiliation, will testify that they are beneficiaries of mission institutions, schools, and health institutions. They will say that the church played a significant role in laying the foundation for this great nation called Nigeria is undisputable. That the church played a role in building the human capacity that was necessary to take off the country as a nation post-independence is undisputable. That the church was a strong voice in uniting the various ethnic groups, religious groups, and various regions. So Nigeria must play in laying the foundation. The church in Nigeria still has a strong voice. I don't think that in any way that the voice of the church in Nigeria has waned. The only thing that one could say is that the challenges that the church is facing today are so numerous and so difficult, and the space for the church to play its own prophetic role, or other religious bodies or other human rights organizations to play their roles in shaping Nigeria, that space seems to be shrinking. It seems to be shrinking because prophetic voices are looked at with disdain sometimes, with suspicions, with concerns, because of selfish reasons, because we have introduced into our polity sectionalism, the religious sentiments, ethnic sentiments. We have looked at these more and more in many places and at many times beyond what brings us together and what holds us together as a nation. Therefore, the space for really prophetic role of the church seem to be shrinking. Human rights abuses are enormous all over the places. So sometimes the religious leaders have to weigh their words, have to be very sensitive and careful when it comes to public engagement. Somehow we are also discovering that we made a mistake as a church in the process post-independence, or maybe this is something that has been there before independence. We have not taken very seriously our participation in the public space. For example, when it comes to politics, we are only now beginning to grow and understand that the church can never stand on the sideline. We can't sit on the fence when it comes to politics. At a certain point, I remember even as a young student, those Christians here in northeastern Nigeria, for example, who actively engaged in politics were almost considered non-believers. They were seen to be something, you are doing something, if you are engaged in politics, you are doing something that is not relevant, that is, counter Christianity. So there was, at a certain point, that misnomer, that misunderstanding. And we are discovering that we can't. The church must play its public role. We must participate in politics. We must participate in governance, because that is where policies are made, rules and regulations are made. And once we are not part and parcel, then we can also not influence fully what is being said. But the question is not only that Christians are there, it's also the question, what kind of Christians participate in government? That's also something that we're struggling to try to redefine. How do we encourage really church members who are really committed and who can stand there to represent the church? Is also an area that we need to grow. So yes, the journey from independence and now has been up and down. The influence of the church remains. The church remains a very valid voice in Nigeria, but of course with so many challenges. In some quarters, we have a very strong voice. Here in Adamawa State, where LCCN was started, it is clear that the church is recognized. The Lutheran Church in Nigeria and other churches are recognized as strong voices in terms of determining how politics is played out. Now, I think what is remained is for us to deal with our internal issues ecumenically, but also as a church in terms of how do we unite? How do we understand that we are one body? It's an area of growth for the church, not only the LCCN, but ecumenically as well. What is the critical role of the church? I think I have said it. We have to revisit our role in terms of education. It's very important. It's unfortunate that in the 70s, the government policies of taking over schools and hospitals, impacted very negatively on the contribution of the church. But we have recognized that we need to come back. Today, the LCCN, for example, we have so many secondary schools and primary schools spread all over the country, in cities and villages. Some of these secondary schools and primary schools are started by congregations or even individuals who will see the need in a remote area and will start some education and will turn it over to the church. We see this as part of our contribution to nation building. We don't see our educational programs, our health programs as necessarily as a way to proselytize people, as a way to impose Christian faith on people, but as a way, as our contribution to nation building. However, we do so with the consciousness that we are a church. We are not an NGO. We are not another organization out there. So we constantly have to challenge ourselves to redefine our identity in this whole vast land called Nigeria. So the church remains a critical and a strategic voice. And the government recognizes that. The government is aware that you can't do without the voices of the church. We are thankful for an ecumenical body like the Christian Association of Nigeria that is standing out, that is speaking, that is uniting, that is bringing us together. Now, we need to continue to engage. And through that ecumenical body, we are thankful we can also engage in dialogue with other religions. So in a general sense, despite the many challenges that are there, the church remains a formidable voice in shaping the future of this country. However, we as a church must constantly remind ourselves that it is not only about engaging out there, that we must lay the foundation beginning with the younger Nigerian citizens. And that is where today we have tried to redefine our strategy. We have tried to go back to the basics, taking our children very seriously, taking education seriously. Because personally, I believe that if Nigeria is going to survive, we must begin to lay a different foundation. Those of us of my age and those older than myself, I think we have messed up this country. There is no hiding, there is no denying that we have messed up this country. And we ourselves may not be in the position to fix everything in this country unless we go back to the basic of laying a better foundation. How is the church affected by government policies? This is again another very sensitive area. In recent years, we have seen some policies that are developed, which makes it very difficult also to function. Our constitution is obscured in one direction. The Nigerian constitution doesn't mention anything church. It doesn't say anything about Christianity. There is no one word. It talks about religion in the vaguest sense of it, but in many places it mentions other religions. For example, Islam is mentioned in our constitution several times. The recognition of Sharia as a law in many states in northern Nigeria also has led many Christians to feel that the constitution is biased. And this sense of biasness in the constitution or giving priority to one religion over the other continues to create uneasiness, even among religious leaders. And people, of course, who want to exploit that, they take advantage of that and do so many things. So there is a feeling, a sense of concern and an urgent need for Nigeria to revisit even our governing documents. Last year, for example, we got into a lot of controversy about a new policy that has to do with the Corporate Affairs Commission, registration of religious bodies, a body that will be set up by the government that will be given the capacity, for example, to take over an institution if they sense there is something wrong. We think that this is an infringement on the rights of religious bodies. Well, a policy has been signed and we are struggling to address that. I think the government policies are not always straightforward, but we can't blame it all on the government. We have to rise up ourselves. We have to do our homework. We have to do a lot of research, and then we have to figure out how to influence that. The mission director spoke earlier about even the structure, the governance structure. The government itself continues to say that its structure is fair. That is theory. In practice, we know that it is not fair. We know that today the church is really struggling. Even as simple as gaining admission into universities here in the north. It's not easy for our children to gain admission into professional courses such as medical studies, such as law, such as professionals. So a young person can be very, very bright and intelligent and can have a very high score that will guarantee their entrance into the university. But it's not easy. And we have several examples of this. So it depends on who is in that institution, So we feel really that a lot of these policies need to be reviewed and need to be revisited for the sake of fairness and for the sake of equity in this country. But who is going to do it? The church itself must take a center stage and participate in the policy of this country, in politics in this country. But we must do that also raising up young men and women who will succeed and who will take us into the future. So the policies, a lot of outcry. People are even agitating that before 2023 elections, we must do something about our constitution. Now, 2023 is not too far. How possible is it to review the constitution now before 2023? Or some will go to the extreme of saying we need to suspend the constitution and deal with these, our internal matters, political matters, before we go into 2023. Now, we live to see then what that means, whether the national assemblies are in the position then to take the lead in that. Freedom of religion, of course, is a very sensitive area. It depends whom you are talking with. For us as Christian leaders, we strongly feel that, again, the space for the freedom of religion in Nigeria is fast shrinking or disappearing. Unlike post-independence period, and we can lift so many concrete examples. In many parts of northern Nigeria today, churches have difficulty even attaining buying land in order to have worship places. Some have to worship in houses. This, for us, we think infringes on our freedom of religion. I mentioned earlier the politics of admission into educational institutions. This also is another aspect. Of course, we can say Boko Haram attacks everybody, but we know that most of the areas that have been vandalized are Christians. Christians are in the majority. We can talk about the herdsmen, if they are really herdsmen. We think these are just another group of terrorists that are doing all kinds of atrocities. Again, if you look very carefully, you can say, well, they come to a village, they attack everybody. But practically and in reality, most of the areas that have been vandalized are predominantly Christian. The abductions of school girls, which is now another system, many of them who are still under the custody of their abductors are Christians. So that makes the ordinary Nigerian Christian to conclude that the church is really under threat. And there is a reality of persecution, we can't deny it. On the other hand, we also have to recognize that there are also good examples of Christians and Muslims trying to live together. One concrete example that I got recently is when we held our National Boys Brigade General Assembly in Guyuk, which is not too far from you. From here, some of you who worked in Nigeria know how far Guyuk is from here. I witnessed there, right hand, where an Islamic aid group from Shani came and joined the General Assembly of the Boys Brigade. And I speaking to the Bishop of Gongola Diocese, Bishop Peter Batimaus, he told me that what happens in Shani is that during Christmas, this aid group, Islamic aid group, will provide security for Christians while they are celebrating their Christmas. They will do like they will be watching around, patrolling the city of Shani to be sure that Christians celebrate their Christmas in peace. And when it is a time for Islamic celebration, the Boys Brigade will do the same. So this is a good example of a seed of hope, and which makes us, inspire us never to give up in the desire for dialogue, in the desire for interfaith, in the desire for reaching out. One of the critical programs that has been spearheaded by LCCN in the past 2-3 years is the UPR, the follow-up to Universal Periodical Review, where we sent a team to Geneva, led again by Bishop Peter and our communication officer and some other persons, which within the LWF is historic. We have never had such a high-level delegation to represent a church and to present and to make a case in the UN. And the follow-up to this UPR has been tremendous. We have had instances between Muslims and Christians where they share good examples of trying to live together and trying to extend goodwill to each other. So these are good examples that should inspire us to never give up, to work together. We should, yes, sorry?
Yes, because I'm looking at the time, and I know that you are very much interested in wanting to hear what people are thinking about what you've said so far.
All right.
So we might take a number of questions and probably a comment or two before, because I can see we have just 5 minutes left. Before we, yeah.
All right. No problem. I think that is probably better because it's an interactive session.
Exactly. Yeah, but we have one question here that has come in from Paul Martin.
And please write your questions in the chat.
Yeah. He is asking about I think like fundamental schools, like Sunday school, schools, workplaces. How does the church educate? Is the church only focused on just the training of pastors? And how can we as partners join together in educating members within the church? I hope that is well represented.
Thank you. In the past 2 years, we have taken a decision to review our Sunday school material. We used to have a more ecumenical material published in JOS, which is a joint project with many churches, but in the past 2-3 years, we have opted now to develop our own material using an inspiration from some Southern African churches. And this material now takes also into consideration, it is based on our lectionary actually, so that every Sunday, the lectionary, the text that will be read on Sunday are also the basis for developing the Sunday school material for that Sunday. We feel that we should now begin also now to bring our young people into the understanding of the Lutheran, of the Christian faith from a Lutheran perspective. So we have, we have developed material, and we are, I think we are putting more energy now and more attention on Sunday school as one of our priority areas if we are going to shape a future generation of leaders. I mentioned that we have so many primary and secondary schools. These are not always directly under the headquarters. Some of them are under the congregations, some are opened up by the dioceses, some are even by subgroups. But under the education department, we have tried to consolidate, we have tried to bring all these together, and therefore we have an understanding where they are located, the number of staff, the number of students, and we are trying to look at curriculums that are consistent, even whether you are in Koma or in Lagos. How do these educational programs, how are they put together? How are they consistent with our goal and objective as a church? So it's not about pastors. Of course, we must insist on training of pastors, but we have tried to hold on to the legacy that Mission Africa left, looking at education, public education. And of recent, we have taken the decision now to develop a Lutheran university that will be located in Demsa. We are grateful the Hamabata has given us a land, 161.9 hectares of land, and we are just about to get the certificate of occupancy. And we want to move on with setting up a Lutheran university in Nigeria, because we know that we have excellent graduates from our secondary schools. But we can't just produce excellent graduates from secondary schools without knowing where they will continue. It's a challenge. So we think that establishing a Lutheran university will be very critical in ensuring that the foundation that we have laid, that they have access to continue their university education. And we can discuss how Mission Africa, and actually I would like to see that Mission Africa will be able to come in one way or the other, and our old age partners, that we are in this together. We are building on what you have laid down so that we can continue with the vision. I think this is as much as I can say. So it's not only about pastors that we are training. No, we are holding a holistic approach to education today. Our Bible schools are also there. We are considering rejuvenating the TAE program as well.
Okay, we have Chua, you have a question. I think it's not written, so we would just ask him to go directly and ask his question.
And please turn on your microphone, Mama Lily. Or maybe Ola could help. Ola, could you help turning on the microphone?
Are we on now?
You are. Welcome.
I come back to one of the things I love the most, the time when we had actual visits. I have never been more happy during my time in Mission Africa than when I've traveled around with people who are sent by the Lutheran Church here to tell about you. And I know that still today, where we have so many wonderful Black people walking our streets, it is something else to hear somebody who embodies and represents LCC, and I hope that this visiting program can continue.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I would take that as a comment, and I think we're on a positive track with that.
Can you tell about that?
No,
we just got a letter.
No, you just shed light on that. Well, we've just gotten, during the annual meeting, and I think credit also to you, Tore, for raising that up during the annual meeting. And we would like to just say that we've received a positive response from the government, where we're having a 3 years possibility now to invite people from Nigeria and other places where there are Danish embassies to come visit us. So we will be having a lot easier path now to have people over, and we'll really look forward to such a meeting, face-to-face meeting. Yeah, absolutely.
It's primarily the places where Denmark have representation. That means Mali and that means Nigeria. Yeah. The next question.
Sorry, Ola, do you have something to say? Okay. I can't see.
Angaya, I have a...
Yeah, Angaya, can you unmute and ask your question? I think we will take that as the last because we promised it's going to be an hour long.
I wrote it. Thank you for a very good presentation and for this very good session for Mission Africa for making it public. And congratulations to the bishop and the archbishop and the whole country for 61 years. It's fantastic to build a legacy like a nation in Nigeria, such a complex place. I've been there just for 2 weeks, and that was the most intense weeks in my whole life, I think. So I heard some echoes of the Prokmura legacy, Christian engagement with Islam for the common good and Christian engagement in the public sphere. So sometimes people say in Nigeria that you have this unwritten agreement. Now is a Christian president, now is a Muslim president. So is that kind of a subtext for the next thing? Or is that just, don't talk too much about it, but I just ask the straight question.
Ola, can you unmute the Archbishop?
Yeah, yes, wonderful.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that question. It's a very tricky question. It's a very unwritten agreement, but which is haunting us, because not only at the presidential level, but even at the state and local government level, because we lost sight of integrity, the quality, and what we expect of a leader, and the unfairness that has crept in compel people to talk about Christians and Muslims, rotation of power. And now it's not only about Christians and Muslims, it's about the South, North, West, and who is the next person. So it all boils down to the fact that we have lost track of a pre-independence vision of a Nigeria where there's peace, where there's justice, where there's equity. Nobody would have been talking about rotational leadership if there is clear a distinction between what is right and wrong, and regardless, and the, respect for the rule of law. I mean, you hear somebody will be breaking the law who is in governance very clearly. Nobody holds that person accountable. And then next person does something very small, nothing, not even compared, that person is held accountable. So the question of mutual accountability, trust is waning. If there is trust and mutual confidence upon one another, I don't think the issue of rotation will even arise. We'll be talking about who is it that is best to govern our country at a certain moment. I hope I have answered your questions.
I think that is very enlightening. I can see he looks very satisfied.
Okay.
But I think it's also, it really...
Well, it is probably something that we'll continue to wrestle with until, until really we clarify the question of justice and equity in this country.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Your Grace, Archbishop. Thank you so much also to the mission director and to Felix for really honoring this invitation, and for all those who have come during this 1 hour presentation. It's a lot to talk about. We're talking about 61 years or more in 1 hour, but this is a good start. We can continue to have this kind of conversation to create understanding of where we are, both in Nigeria and in Denmark, and also to create understanding how best we can continue to work in our common call to mission. You know, I hope this starts something new, both for us in Mission Africa, using media, using what do you call it, the platform of technology to bridge and mitigate some of the distances we've had, especially under Corona.